Okay, hey guys, Jay here. What we've got is the OG, the 95 golf cart. It's got a lot of slop in the steering. I've rebuilt the steering on it once before by changing out the, it's got a rack and pinion steering system, and I've changed out the rack gear. Didn't change out the pinion gear, but it's got a lot of slop in it, and I thought, hey, I could take it apart and rebuild it again with the new rack and a new pinion gear. But what I decided to do was, with the help of my lovely wife Ann, we have ordered new steering box assembly for the 95 EZ-GO OG golf cart. Box was a little jacked up when we got it. Some parts hanging out, some parts not. But take it out of here, have a look at it, and we'll go install it on the golf cart today. So here it is, steering mechanism. Of course, here's your where your steering wheel or your steering column connects right here, and then this is where your tie rods to each front wheel go. Click, 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 right here. All right, tie rods to the front wheels, and up here, steering column. Boom. That's it. Steering mechanism, steering box for 95 EZ-GO. We'll put it on today. Clean up all that slop in the steering. All right. Check with you in a little bit. Here's the 95 EZ-GO that we're going to replace the steering box on. And basically the issue that I've got, if you can look at the steering wheel and the front wheel, see that slop? You don't see the wheels turning, but I'm turning the steering wheel. I don't like that. And it's kind of unsafe. I want to be able to turn the golf cart where I want to. First step is that we're going to take a screwdriver and we're going to remove these two screws right here. Remove this plastic cover from the steering wheel, and then there's a nut back there we need to. Plastic cover's been removed. You can see the two screw holes right here, and then this nut in the center that holds the steering wheel on. And I'm going to take a 15/16 socket and with an extension, and I'm going to remove that nut, and we should be able to pull the steering wheel right off. Take a hammer and just tap it right out. That's been removed right here. Used a 15/16 socket. And you're left with something like this. There's the steering wheel. It fits on a spline, and it's pretty snug, so you're going to need to take a hammer or a mallet and just tap it up. It'll come up, but just give it some taps and work its way up, and it'll come right off of there. Next step is I want to remove the steering column by removing these three bolts right down here, and I will do that now. Using a 9/16 socket and an extension, I removed the three bolts that we're holding the steering column on, and now you can see the steering column is free and able to slide right off of there. And the next thing we do will be to remove this shaft with the fasteners right here by removing the fasteners here, and I will do that now. Okay, so to take this shaft off, there is a little universal joint here that attaches to the pinion gear. I'm using a 3/16 Allen head on one end and a 7/16 closed in or box in wrench on the other end, and or combination wrench, and we're going to remove that fastener and the shaft will come right out. All right, so now to access the steering box, we're going to have to remove this front plastic cover off the golf cart. It's kind of a pain to do for me, but there's one of these on each side, and there's another bolt right here on each side. This one over here just holds the light on, and that was something that I did just because I wanted my light to be very rigid. But 4 fasteners, and then my wiring I'll have to deal with. But pop this front cover off here, and we can have full access to our steering box. Okay. So that front cover's been removed. And in my opinion, that is the worst part of the job, is removing this, especially on my golf cart, because I have done some aftermarket modifications of my own that doesn't really facilitate easy removal of that plastic cover. And that's due to the way that I have my light mounted on there, just because I wanted my light to be really rigid and not bounce around every time I hit over a bump or something like that. But back in here, you can see the steering box that we're going to replace. The first step to doing that, there's 3 nuts up there, or 3 bolts that hold the assembly on. But the first thing I want to do is I want to remove these 2 cotter pins and castle nuts and remove those tie rods. and then we'll go up there and remove those 3 fasteners that actually hold the box onto the chassis. 2 cotter pins there, set those to the side, and then I've got these 2 castle nuts right here that I'm going to use an 11/16 wrench or 11/16 socket with an extension to remove these, and therefore removing these tie rods, and then on to the next step. All right, you see here where I removed those castle nuts, and then I just push the tie rod ends back out the end there, and they're just hanging free. So those are disconnected, and we got basically 3 fasteners left that we're gonna have to contend with to finish up the removal process, and that's here, here, and here. So we'll remove the bottom 2 first, and we'll leave the top one, and slowly remove the top one a little more carefully than we did the first 2, because of all the weight of the steering box. Although it's not excessively heavy, it is somewhat heavy, and all the weight will be supported just by that 1 fastener. So we'll be careful when we remove that we don't drop and hurt anything. All 3 of these fasteners are going to require a 5/8 inch socket, and I'll go ahead and remove those now. All right, next thing I want to do, there's a fastener that's hidden back here. Pull back your carpet, and there you'll see a fastener. I'm going to take a 5/8 socket with an extension handle. I'm just going to pull that right out of there, and then we're going to be able to pull the 3 bolts out of the front. But don't forget this one. It's a hidden guy. It's not obvious, but right there. That's got to come out. All 3 of those fasteners are removed, and now I'm supporting the entire weight of the steering mechanism with my hand, and I should be able to just probably set the camera down and do this, but I'll just need to work it out of what space we have to get it out of the golf cart. All right, so out with the old. We've got the original 1995 steering box out, and we have the new 2019 steering box ready to go in. The only difference is on the old one, this one hole was threaded for a fastener to thread into, but on the new one we've just got a through hole. So we're going to solve that by using a 2.5 inch 7/16 by 14 bolt with the appropriate nuts and washers to take the place of that one that was threaded before. That's it. So it's basically, the process now is reassemble in the reverse order that we took it apart, and pretty simple. Out with the old, in with the new. It takes a little doing to get it in there. To get all of the bolt holes to line back up exactly right, it takes a little bit of persuasion. Not terribly bad, but it was not terribly easy either. Just took a little persuasion. So take your time. Remember, don't over tighten these bolts that go into the aluminum housing, the threaded housing, because it is a cast aluminum and it could strip if you over torque those. So that's in there. Next, we're gonna just go ahead and reconnect the tie rods, and we can start putting together the steering column and all that good stuff. Just basically putting it back together the way we took it apart. And just as a reminder, don't forget, when you're putting this whole thing back together, you got this guy right here that has the hidden nut that could cause you a lot of problems if you don't disassemble and reassemble using that nut accordingly, because it needs to be in there. Of course, it has to come out to get the old box out. All right, back on the reassembly. And tie rods are connected here, and castle nuts are on, and new cotter pins. And now we'll move on to the reassembly of the steering column. All right, so this shaft here from the steering wheel down to the steering box is reinstalled. Just again, opposite of the way that we took it out. 3/16 Allen screw and a 7/16 combination wrench. Just put all that back together, tighten all this stuff up, and then we're ready for the shaft, or the column that goes over top of this shaft, to go into these 3 bolt locations, and then we can plug the steering wheel back in. Those 3 bolts back in place along with the steering column. Only thing left to do now is just put the steering wheel on. So we'll get the wheels all lined up nice and straight and get the steering wheel centered the way we want it. And we'll stick it on with this nut. Okay, all put back together. Got the front part back on, and of course the steering wheel and the steering column, all that good stuff back together, just the way we want it. But this is the main thing that I wanted to accomplish, so doing a little test. Just a little movement in the steering wheel moves the tires, and there's none of that slop. No more slop like I had before. I don't know, to me it was like a totally annoying amount of slop, but no more. So I'm very happy with this. EZ-GO, this is 95, the OG EZ-GO steering box replacement. And it's Jay Nestor. Thanks for watching. Hope somebody got some useful information out of this, man. Comment, like, subscribe. Thanks. All right, a little test run after we replaced the steering box on the old 95 EZ-GO. And man, this is great. The steering is nice and tight. Very responsive. No slop in the steering at all. It's exactly what I wanted. Very, very happy with this. Very, very happy. Hey, so again, man, hope somebody got something out of the video. Maybe you can correct your own steering or replace your own steering box on your own EZ-GO golf cart. So try to click like and subscribe. Make a comment on the video. Say something nasty if you want to. I don't care. But hey, I call this a success. Love it. All right, bye.